Hey everyone, today we're building a SwiftUI app that loads and displays data from a JSON file. We'll go over how to decode JSON using Swift's Codable protocol and load the data asynchronously. Let's dive right on in. So I'm going to actually create a new Xcode project, but of course, feel free to add this into any projects you'd like. So I'm just going to call this JSON example. I'm going to make sure it's on SwiftUI. I'm going to go ahead and create my file. So we can't actually, at least not to my knowledge, create a JSON file in Xcode itself. So my way around that is to either download a separate JSON file or make my own. So if you want to go ahead and open up Text Edit, which should be available on all the Macs, and create a new document here. This is where we can kind of create a blank JSON file here. Sometimes I'll just put like a placeholder. Then I'm going to go to Format, and I'm going to hit Make Plain Text. Then here, this is where I'm going to change it to save on my desktop perhaps, and I'm going to call it fruit JSON.json. It is still going to be a txt, so what I'm going to do is on my desktop here, I'm just going to click on it. I'm going to click on it again, and you'll see that that .txt goes away. I'm going to hit return, and you can see that, are you sure you want to change the extension from .txt to JSON? And I'm going to say, yep, use .json. And now we can drag and drop this file into our project. You can also add it through this plus button down here, where it says add files to name. And you can see that we just have our placeholder here, but this is where we're going to actually be adding our information for our JSON. If you already have a JSON file that you're going to be using, just go ahead and import that, and then you can skip ahead. I'm going to make a JSON here, and this is going to be a list of fruits with a name and a description. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my square bracket here, and then I'm going to go ahead and add the name for all these things. So I'm going to add a brace, add my name, colon, let's have this one be apple. Wonderful. We can also add a description. So an apple would be, a sweet red fruit, or perhaps tart. I think that's how you spell tart when green, right? Whatever description we really want to put here. And then we can actually separate all of our entries with a comma and put them on the next line. If we want to save some time here, just because it's an example, we can paste a few of them. Just make sure for your last entry in the JSON that you don't have this comma. Let's go ahead and change this to be maybe banana, and maybe this is, a yellow, elongated, edible fruit, also found in Balloons TD, if you know that game. I don't know why that was my thought there. Let's also do a cherry here. We can say that this is a small rounded fruit with a pit. We could do peach, a soft stone fruit. I think it's a stone fruit, a pit, and then maybe the last one we'll do a date. And we'll say a sweet fruit from the date palm, often enjoyed dried. Cool. If you ever need to actually verify your JSON, I would head over to Safari, and I would check out this website called JSON Lint, I believe. JSON Lint. I'll put a link in the description here, but this allows you to essentially copy and paste any of your JSONs and validate them to make sure that they work. So we'll go ahead and press this and say JSON is valid. Often it'll also kind of reformat it in a little bit easier to read. So if you want to copy and paste this back into your JSON file, feel free to do so. If we had an error in our JSON, so let's say that we maybe left a comma here. Oops. It's going to copy, not cut. We go to validate the JSON. It will kind of say, okay, hey, on line 6, make sure that, with your last element here, you do remove that comma, and then we'd be all good to go. So if you're ever having trouble with your JSON, I'd recommend checking out this. It's just a free kind of website that you can use, and I'll pop it down in the description. All right, now that we have our fruits JSON file with our kind of sample data here, let's create a model to represent that data in Swift. So in order to decode JSON data, we're going to create a struct conforming to Codable that matches the struct of our JSON file. So we're going to create a new Swift file here. And we're actually just going to have it be a Swift file, not a SwiftUI file here. And let's go ahead and call it fruit. All right, we're going to create a struct here, and we'll say fruit with a capital F. We're going to add a colon, and we're going to say it's going to be codable, as well as identifiable. We're going to add our brace here, and we're going to have a couple constants here. We're going to say let ID equals UUID. Let's also give it the name, so let name be string. And I think we also had description, which was also going to be a string here. Oh, sorry, I had a dash, not an equal sign up there. So Codable essentially enables the fruit structure to be easily encoded and decoded from JSON, and the identifiable allows SwiftUI to use fruit in a list, requiring each item to have a unique ID. So now with our fruit model ready, we can move on to writing a function to load and parse the JSON data. So let's go ahead and create a new Swift file, and we're going to call this one dataloader.swift. So we'll go to our file from template here, Swift file. I'll call it data loader. All right, let's create a class now, and we'll say data loader, add a brace. We're going to create a function here, and we'll call it load fruits. Of course, if you're not using fruits, name it appropriately, right? If you're doing things with, like, I don't know, car parts and you had it named fruits, that wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. And we're going to essentially refer to this array or this list here, right? We're going to create a guard statement. So we'll say guard let URL equal Bundle.main.url for resource fruits, comma, within, or sorry, with extension, not within, with extension. And we're looking for a JSON file here. Then we'll create an else, add a bracket here, and then we'll print could not find fruits dot JSON. Oh, we might actually need to change this from fruits to be fruits JSON. I'm sorry. So whatever you've named your JSON file. I forgot that I named mine fruits JSON like that. But essentially, we're going to look for the fruits JSON resource with the extension. So if it was like a PNG, it'd be .png. In this case, it's a .json file, as we can see on our desktop here. Let's go ahead and add a return so we can get rid of that error. We're just going to return a empty array. All right, let's go ahead and exit out of this else statement, and let's add a do here. So we're going to say do, add a brace, and we'll say let data equals try data contents of, we're going to reference the URL above here, let decoder equals JSON in all caps, decoder with a capital D and then some empty brackets, let fruits equal try decoder dot decode bracket, and then we're going to reference our array here, fruit dot self comma from colon data. All right, and then let's go ahead and return fruits. I spelled it wrong. Fruits. Then we're going to add a catch here, add a brace, and then we're going to say print error decoding JSON. And let's also interpolate that error here as well. And then we'll also return with an empty array. Oh, I misspelled decoder up here as well. Decoder, there we go. All right, now our data loader reads the fruits, the JSON.json file, decodes it using JSON decoder, and returns an array of fruit objects. Now we'll move on to displaying the data in SwiftUI. Okay, now our data loader class reads the fruits JSON.json file. It decodes it using the JSON decoder and returns an array of fruit objects. Now we'll move on to displaying that data within SwiftUI. So let's go ahead and hop on into our content view here. We can get rid of our placeholder VStack here. Actually, just get rid of the VStack entirely. That's totally fine, as we're going to be using a list. But before we create that list, we're going to actually create a state variable. At the top here under the structure, let's say @state private var fruits. And we're going to have this reference our fruit array. And we'll have that equal just as a placeholder, an empty array here. All right, and now in our view, let's go ahead and make a navigation view. And let's also create a list here. And we'll have that be for our fruits here with a lowercase f. And we're going to add a brace and say fruit in. Add some space here. We can say navigation link destination. Okay, and let's have this be for our detail view. In our brackets here, we'll have our fruit be a fruit. So let's say fruit : and we shouldn't need a label, so I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that from our template here. All right, and let's go ahead and after our brackets here, let's add a brace and we'll create a little bit of space. You will get an error because we don't have our detail view yet, right? We have our data loader, we have our fruit, and we have our fruits JSON, but we need to create that detail view to kind of show the different details of those fruits. So if you're getting an error here, don't worry about it. Let's actually create a VStack now. And we'll go ahead and put some information in here. We'll have the text and we'll say fruit.name. We can add the font property to it as well. So maybe this will be a headline or maybe even title. Let's also add some more text and we'll have fruit.description. We can also change how it works. So maybe a subheadline if we're using a headline for the other one. Again, always up to you and what makes sense for you when creating a user interface. Let's also change the foreground color. So foreground style. I think foreground color is depreciated. I'm going to do color.purple just so it stands out a little bit more. If we want to add some padding, we totally can. So let's go ahead and hop out of our VStack dot padding. Maybe we can have this be vertical padding. It's going to be a list after all. So I'm going to type dot vertical, comma, then we'll give a value. We can try 10. If that's too big or too small, we could always adjust it later, right? We can also add a navigation title and load the data on appearance. So within our navigation view here, so basically, two more braces down after we've added the padding, I'm going to add a navigation title. And this is where we can, give it the title of maybe fruits, whatever you want, maybe list of fruits, whatever makes sense for you. We're also going to add a dot on appear. And what we're going to do here is we're actually going to delete those brackets. We're going to add a brace instead. We're going to say fruits equals data loader, empty brackets, dot load fruits. And this is going to load the data on appearance. So we're keeping it still within, we're still keeping it within that navigation view, just at the very bottom of it. So we're not doing this within the list or that VStack there. So now our content view now loads data into a list when the view appears, each fruit in the list has a name and a description, and tapping it navigates to a detail view. So let's go ahead and actually create that detail view, and then we'll actually be able to run the program. So I'm going to create a new file from template here. It's going to be a SwiftUI view, and we're going to call it detail view. Alrighty, let's get rid of our placeholder here, and under our structure we're going to create a constant, and we'll say let fruit colon fruit with a capital F. So we're going to reference that structure there. Let's add a VStack, create a brace, and add some space. And here we can have the text. The first one we'll do the fruit dot name. We can also do the text for the description. So we'll do fruit dot description. You can even reference the ID if you'd like. Let's go ahead and add some properties to these. So we'll add a font. Maybe this one can be large title. We can make it maybe bolded with font weight dot bold. I typically go pretty fast throughout a lot of these properties. You can always feel free to customize them to your heart's content, or pause and slow down and kind of copy it if you'd like. But always make sure you're kind of doing things the way you would like to, or how you think would be best for your user. So I'm going to add some bottom padding here. We're going to make it 10. That should just add some space underneath the title here. Now let's go ahead and add some font here. So font. Typically body maybe for this size. If you want to do like caption, that should look good too. Let's also add some padding here. And we can also add a navigation title as well. So we're going to go ahead and exit this VStack here. And we'll put dot navigation title. And actually let's just set it to be whatever the fruit's name is. So we can just say fruit dot name. That should honestly work the best. We'll probably just have an error here. We can just go ahead and get rid of the preview. We'll use our content view to preview, as well as running it in the simulator. But if you do want to pass it some information so you can kind of test how it looks, we can see that we have our fruits kind of being displayed here. We can even kind of move up the list, but our fruits aren't currently showing. So we might just need to make a quick change in our JSON loader here. All right, let's go ahead and see what's going on here. Error decoding JSON key not found, coding keys. Oh, I spelled description wrong. I was wondering why it wasn't showing up. Okay, so error decoding not found description. So where did we reference that description? Description, yeah, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and description. Even if you really want to make sure you don't make mistakes like me. Oh, I actually misspelled it everywhere. Oh my goodness. That is kind of funny. So if you really want to make sure you don't make the same mistakes I do, let's go ahead and update this. You can always copy and paste things like that so you don't make the same mistakes that I do, which is really, really funny. Thank goodness we have the console to kind of always make sure that, my horrible spelling doesn't get in the way of creating wonderful programs. So let's go ahead and try to run this again on the simulator, and hopefully we also need to change it in the structure here. That is hilarious. Nobody's perfect. I'll show that time and time again. Now our app runs flawlessly. Oh my goodness, so embarrassing. And it happens. I had a case of a program where I was working with a partner, and they were spelling color C-O-L-O-U-R, and I was spelling color C-O-L-O-R. And we were like, why isn't our app working? Anyways, don't trust me with spelling, but here's our new beautiful app that we have here. So we can click on any of these items from our JSON file here. I might just have to play around with the padding and the spacing. It's a little funky. We can always fix that later. But we have our banana. You can click on it, right? And it has that description. We can click on it to learn a little bit more, right? So totally up to you. If we go ahead and even in our JSON file here, we add a new entry or even remove one. Let's go ahead and add another one. I'm going to copy and paste it so it has the proper spelling of description. Oh my goodness, so funny. And maybe we can add another fruit. Maybe we do blueberry. Definitely don't need a capital B there. You know, a small round blue fruit filled with yumminess. Doesn't matter if I misspell things in the description. And now if we go ahead and run our program, we'll see that we'll now have that blueberry entry as well at the bottom here. It is a list that we can also scroll through. So if you have tons of these entries, don't worry about it. We can see our new blueberry entry. I'm just kind of giggling to myself about the description thing. I'm sure some of you are watching and being like, oh my God, no, you misspelled description, but it always comes back. And I love kind of having those errors because you might experience things like that too. So that's one of the ways you can kind of use the console to your advantage in order to kind of figure out why you're getting those mistakes. So I'm glad that the console was able to catch that. But anyways, without further ado, our app is working. We've successfully loaded and displayed JSON data in SwiftUI, creating a fully functional app with navigation as well. So that's it. Today we learned how to parse the JSON data in SwiftUI, set up a list with navigation, and build a detail view to kind of show more of those details. You can expand upon this to your heart's content. This is a really valuable skill for working with local or remote data in your apps. Actually, in the app that I have on the App Store called Word Sage, I created a huge dictionary in a JSON file, and I actually grabbed all of my data from that. So you know, it's kind of about learning about different words, as well as there's a daily word challenge every single day. So I essentially had a date associated. Actually, I can just pull it up real quick. The JSON file, at least I'm not leaking all of my source code. So you can see that I have this word list here. And so essentially for every entry, there's a date, a word, the synonym, sample sentences, right? And you can even, you know, the more you're comfortable with JSONs, you can even break these down, right? So I have my hint section here, my definition, part of speech, related words, right? So for all of these, you can see this is a massive JSON file. But for all of these different sections, I've created, you know, all this important information, and I use that JSON decoder in order to kind of create this, you know, Wordle-esque game for users. So yeah, you can use this to your heart's content. JSONs are pretty universal, so they're fun to kind of play around with. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please like and subscribe for more SwiftUI content. And until next time, dream big and code bigger. Take care.